7:02,
Later, she has a string
and
concert at school.
we're here for the meeting of the trustees of the Village of North Bennington. It is Tuesday, December 11th, 2018, and we have a quorum, and we'll start with the minutes from last month's agenda. Did everybody who wanted to have a chance to approve the minutes, or to review the minutes, sorry?
Is this for the original meeting or the special meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for mentioning that. There were two meetings between our last regularly scheduled meeting and this one. There was the regular meeting, which was Tuesday, November 13th, and then there was a special meeting
On the 27th.
November 27th. So we can go ahead and approve both of those meeting minutes if there is no objection to do so. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Yes, I was only present at one, so I'll have to abstain on the 13th. I was not at that meeting.
I can approve the 13th.
So you make a motion to approve the 13th. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any objection? So, hearing no objection, those minutes will be entered unanimously
With one abstention.
with one abstention. And for November 27th,
I'll make a motion to approve.
and is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries unanimously. And just because we were not live at the special meeting, just to review, that meeting was to sign some paperwork related to the bond for the purpose of water line and water system improvements. Not the water line extension, but the bond that was approved in May for the purpose of improvement. So the federal government requires a specific form, and so we took action to sign the required forms. We also discussed a barking dog complaint on near the Hillside Street. And we had intended to draft a letter to the Bennington Police Department, but unfortunately I have not had, I didn't get to that yet, but I will soon do that. So reviewing the monthly warrants.
I have one question. The Wyatt Ridland,
Yep,
what is that?
we bought 2 wood chippers out of surplus
Oh.
from Pennsylvania, and it was $800 for one, or it was $800 for 2, so we took 2.
Sounds
We
good.
already got one on
All right, so
Thank you.
any other questions on the warrant? December warrant? I don't think there were any large, there weren't any
There
large.
wasn't much of anything, yeah, except the payment to the school, which
Right.
was just a transfer.
So I'll make a motion to approve in the amount of $33,076.02.
I'll second that.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That carries unanimously.
I've got a copy we can sign.
Great. And so, is there any question on the payroll warrant? There's nothing unusual there either. I'd entertain a motion to approve the payroll warrant at $7,843.16.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving that warrant indicate by saying aye.
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 That'll carry unanimously. Are there any citizen comments today? I would like to just say that, I know that there are challenges with federal funding of public access television, and I'd just like to state that we really appreciate that these events are carried live, and that's a real service to our community, and that it's really important that that system that's been put in place to make to give greater access to public meetings like this, especially for people who can't physically get here to the meeting. People do watch the meetings, and I know that Cat TV has really worked to try to make them even more accessible through YouTube and Facebook Live. And I think that's really important for an open society and for a democratic society. And so if people are willing to support Cat TV either by writing to their representative and saying that they don't want that funding structure to be tampered with or cut, or to just support them directly, I think that would be great. That's my personal view, but
I'd like to go as far as to suggest that as we start figuring out our budget this year, that we consider some form of contribution to the Cat TV organization for the work they do.
I would certainly support that.
To what degree we can discuss in the future, but
of course, I think we want to do everything we can to support them, but at the same time, I don't support the shifting of the burden from the cable companies to our local municipalities and funding that sort of thing. I think that's unfair, and that they're being, that
I
that there's
agree.
a system in place that's fair, that pays for it from, cable companies, and that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
It just occurs to me that regardless of whether they are supported or not from that, we should also be contributing to all municipalities and all the places can give what they can to help keep better cameras or more,
Thank you.
Chairman, can I suggest we might jump to the public hearing,
Oh, yeah. of
so that we
course.
could
Sure.
get that taken care of?
So we've taken care of our minutes and bills, and we can come back to citizen comments if there are more that arise, but let's skip down to our new business, and the first order of business is a public hearing and vote on the Village of North Bennington's municipal plan, which we update periodically, and I know the Planning Commission has been working on the most recent update.
You all have had review of that, and we've had our various required public meetings on it. I think this is the hearing where we would vote to adopt the 2018 plan. Are we calling it that? The 18 plan. Catherine Byers is here from the BCRC, who worked extensively on this. In fact, solely pretty much on putting this together. Every time this happens, we get a grant to, they help us get the grant, and then they help us do the work of putting the plan together. Most of the changes that occurred this time were statutorial, things that over every 5 years the state changes what needs to be legally in this plan, and to clean up any obvious errors or whatever. Do you want to speak at all to any of that, or you're?
I think, the statutory requirements, new ones included the requirement to address forest connectivity in the town, and how habitat habitats are connected, and even places where road crossings actually offer habitat connectivity for animals. That's now a requirement to map that and speak to that directly in the town plan. So that was in there, as well as some more robust discussion of flood resilience in the village. So those are the statutory requirements. Really, other than that, updating of some statistics, demographic information, and the biggest change I'd say is a new section on PFOA contamination, and the efforts that are going in to remediate that. That was a big change for, that really, was worked throughout the plan to make reference to that, because it's had such a huge impact and will continue to have an impact moving forward.
And there's also some language, more specific language about alternative energy, placement stuff, and
Yeah.
kind of following what the struggle Bennington went through when they got, assaulted by corporations that wanted to put stuff in, and how do you do the best to plan where that kind of thing happens and keep the best interest of the local community at hand. Again, this has been a document circulated for a long time. I think I would entertain a motion for adoption, and then that will be out of our hands for 5 more years, or
8 more years.
or 8 now, right?
Now it's 8 years.
Nice, which means it'll be probably 10 before we get around to doing it. Hopefully not.
No.
Hopefully not.
So if the document needs to be changed, the same process can be gone through at any time, though, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
If there were some need to change it, but as far as a regular update, it wouldn't be required to be updated until 8 years from now.
It expires 8 years from now.
Yeah.
And any benefit that the village has that's tied to the town plan would also go on probation. So the village has a village center designation. So when the plan expires and is not readopted, then that program is put on probation until the plan is readopted or updated.
Gotcha. All right. I think it's important to move forward with adoption of the new plan. So I would move that we adopt the 2018 Village of North Bennington Municipal Plan.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you again, Catherine,
So,
for,
for 8 years.
So
Discussion.
we have to thank the BCRC and you, Catherine, for your wonderful work, unbelievable understanding and capability in doing this work, and so we appreciate it very much.
Thanks to you guys. Great work to work with a dedicated planning commission with lots of good input, so thank you.
it's been like herding cats for the last 18 months, I'm afraid, but you managed to do it,
But
and
it's done tonight, so
Yeah.
congratulations.
yes, thank you.
I actually think while we have you, just 1 second. We did have a letter from the BCRC, including just an annual report and the fiscal year 2020 municipal assessments. And it kind of explains in detail what the value of the BCRC is, I think, from the director, Jim Sullivan, and then gives the formula that they have for assessing what they ask different municipalities to contribute. And I think that this would be a great, it's just 2 pages. I think it would be good to have in our annual report, because I think this is one of the larger expenses that we have. We have some requests for, $500 or $1,000, something like that, but we're assessed at $5,000, and I think we receive well over that in value when we utilize the BCRC services. So it's a real great deal for us. But I think that when a person is looking at the annual report and they see that number that's bigger than some of the other numbers, it's really great to be able to point them to this explanation right in the report. So I just wanted to ask that we include that in the report this year.
Laura, can this be included in the,
Yep, I have it.
I'm sure we can get a digital
Sure.
copy too.
Yeah, I have it all.
Oh, great,
I have that, and I have the report,
great.
and,
Do we
have it
usually include
in
that
paper,
in the
digital.
report though, or
Always, yeah.
as a, okay, great,
Yeah.
awesome. So, apologies if that was
You're
already
fine.
being done.
That's fine.
Thank you again.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.
You wanna go back to, because Joe's not here, I don't know, is
Okay.
Joe gonna show?
He wasn't coming until Aaron arrived, and Aaron thought it would be 7:30.
Okay.
So he
Good.
sent you that email.
So-
So let's
Go back
pop
to treasure.
back to, yeah, the treasurer's report, please.
I guess we know who's important.
Treasurer's report?
Okay, just a couple of things I would direct your attention to. I did send you the cash balances so you could see where those are. Clearly, our tax account looks very healthy. If you look at our ending bank statement, it was looked to be a lot significantly higher than that, but we also then made all the payments to Mount Anthony and the North Bennington graded school district, so all of those taxes that had been collected. I had prepared earlier, last month, the delinquent tax warrant, which I do as treasurer, to myself as delinquent tax collector. We had a total of 41 taxpayers with an amount of $92,698.02 in delinquent taxes. I have all that detail here. You're welcome to peruse that at the end of this meeting. We don't publish that, nor would I ever suggest we would, but it is here, and it may be something that as trustees of the village, you would want to know. The people that are habitually late had all been sent payment plans. Several of them have responded, and a couple people have already made a December payment on that plan. So of that 92,000 originally outstanding, there were some, people that just were inadvertently late, and close to 20 will be collected by the end of December, after tax date and by the end of December. I also have available, should anyone want to see it, the reconciliation of the education taxes and the preliminary rec for everything that was sent to Mount Anthony. $696,576 and change was sent to Mount Anthony, and a total of $863,017 and change to the North Bennington graded school district. And so we are left with $842,000. There. Other thing I would ask, with your permission, I received a notification from AARP Tax Aid Services. And I saw this last year, and I know it's posted in the library. With your permission, I'd like to post this here. What it is that AARP offers some free tax preparation services to people in an area. They have appointments in Sacred Heart Church, here in the St. John the Baptist Church, Manchester Town Hall. And the reason I thought it might be nice is that I know that we had quite a few of our residents that didn't properly file their homestead or didn't file it at all. And it's just a shame that these were people that would have benefited from this program, and for whatever reason, just didn't. So if there was a service right here in town that somebody could perhaps set up an appointment and walk to, and at the very least help them, if it's okay, I'd like to just at least post that here.
That'd be great.
And then
Absolutely.
make mention of it here too, so.
Would it make sense possibly to include that in tax bills in the future? So that they would, or is
I
that,
really really don't have, well, first of all, I just got it, so I couldn't put it in
But
the
just, you
tax.
know, I'm talking about, for like, maybe that makes sense, or?
I don't know if there's any other services, so I wouldn't want to say that this is a service that people should do in the event that there's others.
Mhm.
And then the larger point is that there is no room on the tax bill to start putting things. It's hard enough for people to read what's on it, let alone to start putting things in the margins that,
I'm talking about as a separate sheet.
Well, I think it's,
If that, it was just something
Yeah.
that popped in, I mean, if it's not feasible, then don't do it.
is it true that by the time they get the property tax bill, though, it's too late to file?
no, it is not, it is not. People have until October 15th to make adjustments. That's why, and I've told many people who've called, lots of people called. As soon as people get their tax bill, and I will reiterate this next year, as soon as people get their tax bill in September, they have to look. Because if their homestead exemption either isn't there or doesn't look right,
Hmm.
and the back of our tax bill does instruct people on where to call and what to do. But I had 2 calls this week. Well, it's far after tax bills are due. So I will post this
Great.
and, you know, maybe make mention of it here and there. Come April 15th, I'll also make mention of it in our meeting, that people need to make sure to get that filed.
Excellent.
And then the final thing is, at one of our meetings, we talked about a couple of things that are in our personal, or in our handbook, our policy, that the language wasn't quite right. And I made those adjustments. I don't know if that's something you want to take up right now. I can read those changes, or should this be addressed outside of this public meeting?
Yeah, I think we can make those changes now.
Okay,
The policy,
Okay.
the
So the
employment
one
policy
was-
is not a
okay.
personnel
The one
matter.
was on page 12 of our manual that dealt with the pay period, and it said paychecks are normally distributed on the Friday of the work pay, of the pay week, of the payday week. I don't know what a payday week is, but they are distributed on the Friday of the following work week. And work week is described on the same page. So I would change that to stay, instead of payday week, following work week. On page 14 of that, there was a provision where after 1 year of employment, an employee who is eligible for village health insurance benefits, but who is also covered under another health insurance plan, will receive an annual payment of $2,000. Previously, this had said to go into a government-sanctioned retirement account. We have never done that.
Right.
So, the proposed language is just receive an annual payment of $2,000, period. Further, since this is taxable income, such payment will be grossed up to cover employee taxes. That is what we have done
Yep.
the last few years. So, that changed. And then the final one was on page 15. In 3 separate places, it was noted that the village had a pension plan. We have a pension benefit, we do not have a pension plan. So I'm just proposing that we change the word plan to the fact that it is a benefit offered, but we do not have or sponsor a pension plan. And as discussed before, I know at least some of these changes we had discussed previously, and I thought they were in this document, but they weren't. So, that's okay.
Is there a motion to adopt the changes as stated?
So moved.
And I can provide
There's a
the board
second.
with detail or these copies so that you can clearly see what
Yeah.
changes if
If
you
we
want
could,
these.
and I would actually, if we could amend the motion so that the, policy manual or the personnel manual, is that what the document's called, the personnel manual?
Employee personnel, handbook.
Employee,
Oh, thought I had a copy with me.
I can certainly.
whatever the title,
get those.
the title's not gonna change.
Yeah, no.
But that it says as amended, 2000, for 2019 or
Yeah.
2018?
The,
For 2019.
should be, we could say for 2019. And the.
Because I think that was part of the issue,
Yeah,
is maybe
the
we.
page one of that, the cover page of that says 2007.
Right.
But inside of there, it says amended 2017.
Ah, okay.
But the cover page actually said it was adopted 2007.
Oh,
So I think that was part of the, at least that was some of my confusion when I just looked at the cover of the document.
okay,
It
so
has
maybe
one
we
thing.
should we take off the, I mean, that's not statutory
It
or
doesn't
anything,
need
right?
to be on the cover, I'll just
Maybe just to
remove it
avoid
from.
confusion, we'd
from
remove
that cover
2007
page.
from the cover and then
Okay.
replace
Okay.
adopted 2017
So
with
then
adopted
what I'll
2000.
do is send Lori the original Word document that you
Yeah.
sent me, send you that, and then for the general distribution, a PDF of the entire document,
Perfect.
so that PDFs aren't as easily changed.
Okay,
Thank you.
so in case we did.
We did.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And that's, shall be so amended. Highway. What?
Moving along.
Oh, it's gonna, right, but, okay.
He's gonna be long, is that what you
Yeah.
said?
It's gonna take a little bit, we got a couple issues to discuss, highway related. Is there anything from the Development Review Board?
We haven't met since last month. so no.
Okay. How about, and then possible appointments to the Planning Commission?
Yeah, so, I've been looking for, two new members of the planning commission, and, some ideas came forth, kind of landed in my hands, and I wanted to put these out. Abby Martin, owner of Powers Market, and member of the ad hoc committee, expressed interest in getting involved. And so, I think that she would bring to the planning commission some needed, energy from the community development kind of end of things. And, another, nomination I'd like to make is Brian Vargo, and Brian is a newer member of the community, grew up in Shaftesbury. He's a financial advisor in Manchester, but he's very interested in getting involved with the community, and I thought this might be a place to start. And so I'm putting those names forward. I haven't had really any opportunity to talk to Chris about this or to our other members, so I'm open to delaying any appointment if there's any concerns, or if you all want to. I think we're anxious to get a full board too, so.
I think the way that we made an appointment the last time was we had a letter, but I think if you're saying that these people would like to go on to the board, I think we'll take that as essentially their request.
Both
You don't have to have a written request necessarily, but if it's just that the name was suggested.
No, both
then,
of these people have agreed to serve if nominated and appointed.
Since you're raising the issue, I think I'd be happy to nominate Abby Martin because I know her, but I don't know Brian, but I certainly am in favor of anybody who's volunteering for our boards and is willing to serve. So I'll nominate Abby Martin.
I'll nominate Brian.
Okay.
So, would you like to appoint them?
Yes, to appoint them to the planning commission.
Okay, yes, I would move to appoint Abby Martin to the planning commission.
Do you want to do them separate, just for that
Sure.
purpose?
I will second Abby Martin.
And any discussion or objection to her appointment? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so she's appointed. And did you want to nominate?
I'll nominate Brian
Appoint.
appoint Brian Vargo to the planning commission.
Second.
And Mr. Woodrow seconds the appointment, and any objection or discussion on the issue? So all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And that appointment is approved. Oh, that's very good. I think it's been a while since we've had a full
Yes.
commission. All right, any other issues from that? I mean, I think it's great we've got the,
We now have our
Plan in
chair of
place.
the board, of the planning commission, who's working hard to learn the ropes and get things going. And Chris is our zoning administrator and our chair of the planning commission.
great.
And so if anybody has zoning questions, they can reach out to him. We'll make sure we get that information updated on the fund for North Bennington site with phone number and email address. But he's the guy you call if you need a permit, or if you have questions about bringing forth something to the DRB, a development, or any question that would end up at the DRB.
Okay.
A change of use plan for a property or whatever.
And I don't have anything from the fire department this month, or the water board that I'm aware of, other than what we discussed from the special meeting. So, Mr. Cicciarillo is here for representing the Outdoor Sculpture Show,
Yeah.
which is a wonderful event that we have here in North Bennington, largely due to his grit and sweat.
Tireless,
Yeah,
And a lot of emails.
yeah.
So I am here tonight to propose something to the trustees. We are funded by Sage City and by the fund for North Bennington. And I was at our last meeting talking about an idea that I had about one piece being selected by a group of people to be named. That would move after the show was over, probably here, out front here. And it would be sort of like, a prize, that this one person would be selected by a group of people in town. That piece would move here, we'd have like a little sign, and then the town would come up with $500 as like a stipend for that one piece. Part of the idea comes from the fact that there are so many of these towns these days that have these shows. I mean, it's quadrupled over the last couple of years, how many towns have outdoor sculpture shows. And a lot of them have stipends, for every artist, which I think is, kind of unreasonable for this show, because we traditionally have 40 people in the show. So, I mean, it becomes absurd to give people even if you gave everyone $100, it becomes like a lot of money. So this was a way of having, just a little more publicity for the show, a little bit of a carrot for one of the people to get, this award. It's a way for people in town to know that this is, sanctioned by the town and more part of the community, which, You know, I've been doing this, I think this is my 7th year, I'm not really sure. Somewhere around, it's 7, 8, I don't know what it is. And it has dawned on me that I was going about this the right way in terms of getting the show up and running, but the wrong way in terms of not trying to integrate it more into the fabric of the town. And so this is just another proposal along those lines. You know, we've been talking to people at the college, we've been talking to people at the graded school. There are things that we're trying to do this year that are different. And,
Would this be a piece that then would be permanently installed?
no, it would be, it would just stay
Maybe a year or
until
until the
the
next-
next show is up again. And so, in other words, it would arrive here like around Halloween sometime, and it would leave here at the end of June. You know, that's, you know, so that's for you guys to decide, that's my proposal.
Joe, who would choose the piece? Would it be a committee
Yeah,
from the, would it, I'm just wondering if like a trustee,
yeah,
You know,
it would be a
or-
committee, I mean, it would be, you know, whoever wants to do it, I mean, I assume 4 people would be
Yeah.
enough. You could be one of them if you want.
well, any one of us.
You're already involved with the show, so you would be a perfect person to be one of the people. It might be better if I'm not one of them. It should, you know, it could be a fairly easy thing to do. It might involve one more move of something, depending on how heavy the thing is and how easy it is to move it. And then we'd also have to decide where it's gonna go. I think the signage we could get for free. Greg Van Houten has been donating the signs the last couple of years, and I think I could get him to, you know, throw this in. Been great about that. And the signs have gotten much better. I don't know if anybody noticed. I mean, they're bricks now, which can be moved when people want to cut the lawn, as opposed to being stuck in the lawn. And I think that they've worked out pretty good. You know, the lawn mowing is the big issue with the show, really. And I think we've kind of worked it out. And, between bases, talking to Norm, dealing with Matt, you know. So that's all I have.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to take up time, but can you tell us a little bit more about the show? As if we didn't know anything about it.
Mhm.
What can you say about it quickly?
Okay, well, what I try and do is find, you know, the best work that I can find to come here from the region, you know, and my hope is that it exposes people to contemporary public sculpture that they wouldn't normally see. Besides that, it's also been a traditional thing. I think this will be the 22nd year in town, so it's been going on for a long time. I'm not sure what else to say. I mean, I could get very lengthy about this, but I'm not sure.
They're also local art, I mean, really local artists, right?
There are a lot of local artists, right. I mean, there are a
That
couple
are-
of people who've been in the show the entire 22 years. Greg Smith, whose piece is now over at, across the street of VAE. It got moved from here to there. It looks good over there too. And Michael Biddy, I think, has been in the show, the entirety of the show. Given that they were both involved in college in their younger days. Is there anything that anybody doesn't know about the show? I mean, the history of the show, are you interested in that? I don't know how much time we have.
Well, I think, I mean, for the benefit of our online listeners, I think we're just
Yeah.
giving sort of a a bare bones, but I think most of us are pretty acquainted with the,
Yeah.
And I think I would only disagree with one of your points, is that you haven't done a good job of weaving it into the fabric of our community. I mean, I've lived here 20 years, and it's the one thing you actually know is coming.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of people plan on making sure they're around for, so
Yeah.
I would disagree that you haven't done a good job with that. I think you have done a good job, and those prior to you have done a really good job of really making it part of what North Bennington is, so you shouldn't sell yourself short on
Okay,
that.
well, I guess, what I'm trying to say is, thank you. What I'm trying to say
Let's
is
keep it
that,
going.
I'm trying to weave it into, I would like to have other people involved. It's become kind of like Joe's show, which is something that I really actually don't want it to be. I mean, I don't feel like, that's what is the spirit of the thing. So what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to integrate it in a way so that other people have, you know, a little skin in the game, or a little more interest in it, or, and we have some interesting things happening. John Isherwood was talking to Tim, and I'm forgetting Tim's last name now, from grade at school. And
Newbold.
thinking about collaborating between the kids at the school and some of the students at the college, creating some pieces, which will probably go up at Welling.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's the kind of thing that we want to get going.
Sure, no, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I could see, and again, I would I would say, run with that idea. I think we'd want to discuss a little more about
Sure.
exactly how we do this. One possibility and proposal I would make is that, you know, a $500 stipend could come from the village budget out of our, community development fund, which is, you know, pretty well, or parks, you know, it is a great.
I'm surprised that wasn't the first thing you said. Community development sounds fine.
It is kind of a parky thing, though, I could see that, and,
So is the place you put your car, but we're not taking that out.
I see. but that's what we'd have to decide, kind of, as a board, where that money is coming from, whether we, you know, whether that's the right target or number, that you know, but I think it's a great idea. And then that individual gets a little extra highlight at the end of having the sculpture stay
Yeah.
for that 8 months, and then,
Couple extra dollars, you know, it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
It makes somebody feel like, you know, it's funny, I've been in some shows where you get $100 or $200. It's not gonna change your life, but it makes you feel like, well, somebody cares enough to give
Yeah.
$100 or $200, you know?
Yeah.
And just in conclusion, I just wanna say one thing. When I was in college, I went to Barry, I hitchhiked to Barry from Oswego, which is where I was, and I guess I was on 91, I don't know what road I was on. This is like sometime in the 70s. And as I was going up the highway, the interstate, they had, I'm not even sure where I was in the state, but there were all these stone sculptures along the highway. I mean, some, you know, 15-foot tall, like big stuff, that somebody had somebody took the initiative to put these stone sculptures on the side of the highway in Vermont. And I have to say, I was extremely impressed by it. Of course, you know, that is what I ended up doing with myself, but I never forgot that. I thought that that was, you know, said something about the state. And I thought it was a cool thing, and you never know. You know, the thing that's funny about artwork, it's not like theater or music or something like that. You know, you put your stuff out there and you have no idea who sees it, what they think of it. Most of the time, you have no idea who does what, you know, or thinks what, or is, you know, inspired or hates it or whatever. You just don't know. So your hope is that it's putting some good energy out, but you don't, you know, there's no really way. Oftentimes, there's no way of knowing that. So thank you for listening to me.
thanks for coming, Joe.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, thank you, Jen.
Yeah, great.
So let's just stay in touch
Yeah.
about how the plans go for this next year and what new things are happening, and we'll
Yeah.
try to engage in a different way as well, and maybe a member of the trustees could be on that committee that you formed?
Sure, I mean, I can come back to another meeting later in the year as well, you know, so if we want to talk about some other things about the show as it develops. So, okay.
Great, thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you more.
I think we're ready to move into
Ready to
our
move into the highway?
highway.
Can I just ask one? No, go ahead, I can ask it later.
Okay. No, I don't think we have any other
All right, so-
citizen issues.
Obviously, the regular highway stuff, we've been plowing a little bit. Winter has arrived. Winter has arrived long before Mother Nature decided to get rid of most of the leaves on the trees, which is not our fault. In October, I think there was, 22, 23 days of rain. You know, November wasn't any better at the start. So it was an interesting season. So we've got a couple things to talk about. One is the big truck, we call it Truck 3, is up for its replacement schedule. We need to move forward with that. And we need to make a decision on what we're gonna do with that. Are you raising your hand?
No.
Okay. One of the big things is with the little communities such as ours, the villages, you get behind these truck and these bodybuilders and the lead time is crazy. Through an unfortunate event up north, I don't know if any of you read it, there was an international dealership that burnt. But we were working on a propane truck and somehow something happened and anyways, the whole place is gone. And in that probably lost 6 or 8 other municipality trucks and a college truck and this and that. So that's gonna add a little backlog in our little community. So we have met with a couple truck guys, we've met with a couple body guys, and we have some budget numbers. Our budget numbers between a truck that's already built right now, which I really don't think that's the way for us to go, they range between 145 and 170, and that's something that somebody else just speculated. They call them spec trucks, that they would fit. None of those match anything close to even what we have or what we would like to see us have. And then there's the trucks as, again, the budget numbers of what we have right now and what we would like to see our truck equipped with. And then ranging from 165 to probably 175. That's would be next year's model, and actually a lot of them even are model 2020 with the trucks, the way they buy them. There's such a lead time. There's 2 manufacturers that if we ordered a truck tomorrow, they wouldn't start building it until August, the cab and chassis. So then it puts you 120 days from that, and into December into a whole nother year. So what I would like the board to commit to tonight is to move forward with an actual bid process. Mary's worked on it with us. We've looked up our the last time we replaced this truck, and I think it was $115 for the truck and 50 something for the body. The truck seems to be coming in a little cheaper, but the body stuff is a little higher. Obviously, we're not gonna get into a big political discussion with steel tariffs and everything else, but all those trucks are metal. And they that's how they come
But it
out.
sounds like the top end of what we paid last time, the top end,
Yeah,
this one roughly.
Pretty close,
Which
yes,
is-
pretty close is where it'll land. It's unfortunate that those trucks would make the trade-in values, or if we decide to try to negotiate something where we have a fixed trade-in, but we have so many months to sell it ourselves. The sight unseen are ranging between 20 to 25, maybe 30 on the outside.
That's our current truck.
That's our current truck, and that, it's a beating on it, but that's just the way they are. I would stress that the board understands that we only have one. We don't have a spare. It's not like a fire truck when a house burns, there's a bunch of other people with fire trucks that aren't doing anything, hopefully, and will come and rescue you. When our truck's busy, everybody else is working too. So I have some paperwork here. It's way too much to actually just start handing out. But I'll stay after if you'd like to look at it, or, you know, certainly anybody can come by and I can show it to you. But what we would like to see the process being is we would do the truck first, because it's a lot easier for the body guys to bid on what they're building it on, so we can narrow some things down. There's a couple of field trips involved. If anybody would like to go, we can schedule those out, and, but for the next January meeting, and we've got 2 holidays in the middle of it, so that time's a little factor, that we actually open a committed bid towards the truck, and 2 weeks later, we have another special meeting, and we open a bid for the body. And then, you know, we would probably,
So that would give them, so once we approve a truck,
yeah,
you would have 2 more weeks to get a,
right, then we would, because we're already starting to have these conversations with the body guys, they just have to refine it in case they were gonna move it to, you know, a different chassis that's a little bit different. And that gives us time to get all our ducks in a row. In New York State, especially, there a lot of them are committed to the town meeting day kind of process, and where we schedule it in, we have a turnover, it's X number of years, and we get, you know, so if we're in front of that, then everything's in front of that. If we're behind that, we go way behind. And right now, anticipated delivery would probably be August, September. And I know our neighbors down the street, you know, had a truck sitting, and, you know, I think they just got it, and their anticipated delivery date was September. You know, the start of September, so everything kind of goes, and, you know, so it's certainly in our best interest to be on the forefront. Now, we have, again, we've looked at it, and I can show you the ones that are already built, what they call spec trucks, but they don't really fit our needs, and to get them to move, there's a couple things like the candy cane plow that we got, that's a lot safer with one person chops. It's not worth it. So then you take that, and then you retrofit, and then you take that other part, and they give you a trade, it's really, you'll be right where you are. And we never anticipated with a new one this year, you know, that wasn't in our plan, so I don't see, you know, unless we have a catastrophic event that forces us into that, we should just stick with our plan and just keep going.
Although I will say, 4 years ago, when you and I started that plan and floated that as a thought, that green truck was going to be replaced in this fiscal year. So we're already 1 year behind on that truck, what we had hoped to be.
So I think this is exactly where we want it to be, though, in terms of we've committed funds to a reserve to put us in a position where we can't purchase a truck on a regular schedule, because, as Norm says, we with a small municipality where we have one truck, we have to have a truck that's under warranty and that's going to function the way that he needs it to function on demand. So I think we're where we need to be, and that I don't, unless there's some sort of objection from the board, I think the best way to proceed is just to allow him to make the specifications for the truck. I don't think there's any point in us trying to look at the exact specifications. I think we just trust our highway supervisor to get the truck that he needs to do the job that he does. I mean, having one of us try to be a specialist in trucks, I think is not really in our lane, so to speak. So he's tried to get some sense into me on it, so I will continue my communications with him on specifically highway issues. So there's going to be communication with the board, and I'll send emails to everybody as the process moves forward. But I think we do need to move to a bid process now so that we can
And I was
get
gonna
ahead.
say, I would volunteer if board members get busy and, you know, during their work weeks, I would volunteer to go with Norm and do any, field work that needs to be done, much as like we did when we got the, bulldozer and the other things. Backhoe. See, all right, see, I need money.
That's next year, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
but we've done a couple of those.
My only question is the funding.
The board- Yes?
The funding, where is it coming from?
The funding actually will not come totally from that reserve. The reserves that we have, I was just, Mark was just asking about that. I've sketched out the next 10, 12 years on that reserve, the way it's currently going. We will never have to, we will always, let me restate that. We will always have sufficient funds in that reserve to pay cash for our two other pickups, the 2 one-tons. This vehicle, this big one, never was fully funded in the reserves, nor would be. But I can tell you from where we are right now, if I look out for about the next 12 years or so, we would be able to take probably $30,000 of our current reserve and still have enough to fund in perpetuity the 2 one-tons.
Well,
And those on a rotating.
I'm just seeing in the truck reserve fund right now is 31,000.
No,
No,
it's 90.
no.
Where am
Wait,
I?
that's the,
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the
that's
fire
the
truck.
fire truck. Yes,
My fault, sorry.
yes, you're right.
Truck reserve is 30.
Yes, and I've sketched that out. So now we're gonna add 26,000 to that in fiscal 19 that we're in.
Mhm.
Okay. But the way, the rotations that the 2 one-tons are coming up on, if we keep that reserve funded annually, we would be able to have about $30,000 by the time we pay for this truck.
And then the remainder is paid
And the
by,
remainder, that stays in there, and then the remainder would be financed, much as we did the green truck. When we bought the green truck, it was 100% financed.
yeah.
And
No, it's
so
good.
we've got, so we would use some money from,
Right.
some money from the reserve,
Some,
and then the trade-in, and then the rest finance.
right.
So we would have roughly, you know, anywhere from $100,000 to $125,000 that we
Right.
have to
And I
pay.
think we need to look and see what's gonna be offered, and then make the decision as to what is the best use of
Yep.
doing that.
I make a motion to do exactly what John said, to move this forward, get
The bids out.
the bids out, and we meet in January to open bids. Is that the timeline proposal? Yep.
Is there a second? Aaron seconds, and all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, carries, good. The only annoying thing about that is I think we should be getting more for our trade-in, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
That's how you
Well,
always
I
feel about
decided,
that.
You know, in a conversation, because we do very well in our
Thank you.
municipal auction program, which we have 2 other
Yeah.
assets that will go to support this asset
Right.
acquisition. We cross another calendar year, so if we get so far, you know, you could opt to, instead of depositing the money at the end of fiscal year 20, you know, do it at the start. You know what I mean? So there's a couple different ways you can negotiate that. You know, but as Mary said, we discussed, we're growing in 2 more trucks. We'll probably be really close to just doing it like our other ones and not having to worry about financing almost nothing.
Well,
We're getting closer.
not getting closer to completely financing this big one.
This one.
No, but
No,
in
no.
2 more of these big ones, we'll get closer than we are now.
Not unless, no.
And not unless we increase
Not
what we're
unless we
putting in.
increase the reserve. And that's something we can look at this big.
That's fine.
The next budget cycle, I can show you what.
We're
might
better off than we
be
were
necessary.
5 years ago.
And with the financing we get,
Yes.
it doesn't always benefit us to take all that money and tie it
That's
to
right.
reserve funds,
That's
because
exactly right.
you're handcuffing yourself in other areas. So, I mean, it's a nature of being a small
Mhm.
municipality. I mean, it is what it is.
And there is some, there is some wisdom in that.
So
Okay?
if the, is, we also wanted to discuss
Yep, that's the next one.
our issue of,
So the next one coming is again, we talked about the rain in this year, and one of the services that the village offers their residents is some leaf collection. Now, as I've been here for years, the leaf collection has evolved considerably, and this year was a terrible taxing year. And every year it seems to, a couple more people hear about it, a couple more people hear about it, a couple more people hear about it. And again, in our spirit of that is for the homeowners to break their leaves up when they're kind of dry, throw a tarp on it when it rains, and deal with it. Well, this year, nobody had a chance to get them when they were dry. I mean, people don't pay attention anyways. They ended up wet. There was at least 4 days that we used the backhoe and the clamshell bucket on people's lawns because there was just no way to pick them up. We all know my opinion and my feeling of that service and what it does to our time. So what I am proposing, we've killed our machine that we have now. Its tongue is hanging out. It's all over the ground. We need to invest in a machine, and if we're going to keep this up, it's growing. It's just like everything. It just keeps going and going. So to invest in a reasonable size machine for this reasonable territory, and we are looking from anywhere between $35,000 and probably $45,000 to get a sucker unit that has the horsepower that can deal with these piles that we're getting with the wet. And basically, it would be as a copy of one of the ones that Ron Pembroke has. I've got a couple budget numbers here, and what I discussed with John about, because this is not a budgeted item. Much as I'd like to take it out of the park side because they're leaves, it is way beyond where that should land. But what I proposed to John is that it actually becomes a line item in the voting on town meeting day, if the board so chooses, and say, listen, if we're going to continue this service, this is what we're going to need to get. If you want to get it, this is where we're going to land. If we're not, then we're out of the league business. Because we just can't do it.
So here's a thought experiment. We don't do anybody's leaves. What's the impact on you in other ways? Like the drains being all clogged with leaves more than they are now, or the curbs?
Well, most of the people are putting their leaves in the street, so they're creating some of that problem.
Okay.
You're never going to get away from leaves and drains. I mean, when I first took this job, there's a wonderful rendition of Matthew Perry and me, and I'm happy to give it to you and show you how we're going to solve that problem.
No, I'm quite familiar with that.
Until then, that's a municipal problem everywhere in the country.
I guess the question is though, do you think it would be any worse than it is now? If we didn't offer that, I think that's more the question. You don't think it would?
No, I think it would be better.
Okay, so that's the.
You drive up multiple.
Because now what you're doing is they're actually pushing them closer to the street.
Right.
And so if they're in
The
their
piles are
yard-
supposed to stay in your lawn, but people don't put them on their lawn. They put them out in the road because that's what they do in Cambridge. And that's all I hear. So, well, that's what they do in Cambridge. Well, this isn't Cambridge. This is the village of North Bennington. And this is how we've been doing it for years, and this is when we do it. Well, now we stopped picking up leaves again the first full week in November on the Tuesday. Pick them up on Monday mornings and Tuesday mornings. For the next week and a half, we picked up piles of leaves, and again, people rake out and they put in the DIs and stuff. It's a considerable problem, and at that time of the year, we have to be getting ready for winter that's coming.
yeah, my opinion is that we can't really afford it. I mean, whether you look at one way or the other, you look at one way of looking at it would be, in order to have, our 2 employees do the job that, as it should be, that's a very expensive piece of equipment. Because in order to get one that has the horsepower to do it, that can be operated by one person, it's an expensive piece of equipment, which I think is just too much for us.
It can't be operated by one person. It's a 2-person job.
So, and the second side of it is if we, you know, if we just don't purchase it or something, then that's a whole bunch of manpower that we have to pay for to accomplish the job, and that doesn't really make sense either. So I just, it feels like no matter which way we go, it's kind of like too much of
Well, if
a.
we don't purchase the equipment, that would end the program.
Correct.
What about,
That would
Well,
be, no, I'm not saying that pro or con, but that's basically what we're saying, because if we,
Right, I mean,
our
we could
equipment
buy,
hours are
Why,
gonna.
and why would you feel you have to pick up, why would you feel you have to pick up a resident's personal property?
right,
I have to pay for my garbage, I pay to get my leaf picked up. Why would you feel like that? Why would you feel that you have to do this for the village?
you know, some communities require you to buy bags, to biodegradable bags, whether they're paper or whatever, and then they gotta put the leaves in the damn bag. And then the job of the municipality at that point, because there would be income generated from that. I mean, a lot of the towns.
We've actually looked into that, and we've gotten bags, and I have some at work, and, you know, we floated in, I don't quite know if it ever made it to this meeting, but definitely I've talked to a couple of board members. The problem is in those municipalities that do that, they have a subsection that has a garbage truck that just does that.
Yeah,
You know, so now, again, I gotta pick them up, so now I got a bag. The bags are biodegradable, they are, but they're 5 years to break down. So now I throw them in my leaf pile and I break them down, but it's still years before they get it, so now I'm emptying the bag.
or now you're grinding them, you know what, yeah, that's the other thing.
Right, you know what I mean, we don't have a grinder, you know what I mean, it adds a whole nother level. Now, if we talk to, you know, a contractor, we have, you know, Tam, Casella, somebody else that may have a need for them, I mean, that's the worst part about it, is we collect those leaves and we compost them down into topsoil and we use it in a couple of years throughout the town, you know. And I hate that program, like, I can't stand it, but it is a nice thing for some people, but if we're gonna do it, we need to buy a machine to do it, because we keep fiddling around.
yeah.
And, you know, I think there's gonna be there's gonna be a big problem, especially next year, if it stops, because people are still gonna,
Yeah, that's-
you know, I don't
that's the
care how
other
many
thing.
flyers, how many
And you
things we
can,
put out in the paper, how much we let.
Well, that would
people
almost be a
still do
door-to-door,
it.
that would almost be a door-to-door thing we'd have to do. Or at least, I
How
mean,
long
you
is it?
probably know most of the, you probably know most of the people that take advantage of that program. It might be that you would have to give us just an idea of which properties, and then we would either take it on to go out and
You know,
do a door-to-door
yes.
campaign where we have to tell people that this is no longer available,
I think.
if we were to stop it.
I think the idea with something at town meeting was at least the people that, you know, you get more people that show up to town meeting, word gets around a little bit, if it's an issue there, that we say, look, we're probably gonna be, you know, ending this program. If we did wanna continue it, we'd have to really invest in it. Is that something the town wants to do, or the village wants to do? And I'm not in favor of it, but I also do like the idea of maybe saying like, well, I don't necessarily know what everybody in the village thinks about that, and if people have a different opinion, then.
Town meeting is not the place to get a full opinion of the community, you know?
It is the exact place, it's the
Well-
whole community decides not to come.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's the exact place. Now, I'm scared to death to throw it out on the floor there, because I think I know what's gonna happen, but.
yeah, you'd lose it,
But, no, I think I would.
that's what I'm saying.
But if we're gonna buy the machine, then we need to buy the machine, because now this is a Pandora's box if it will explode. You know, and now everybody, there's gonna be, you know, so now. you know-
I guess
The
what
thing
I
is
wanna know
We're gonna buy this machine, and it's already free at the dump that we subsidize. So
I'm not
we're paying
advocating
for
buying that machine. I
Bennington
think-
taxes to pay for free leaf drop off at the dump, and we're paying again to have it, to do it another way. So, that's,
I agree, and my only concern is, is it your contention that there is substantially more people taking advantage of it now than there were 20 years ago when
Yeah.
Mike or whatever
Well,
did it?
10 years ago when I started, yes. A lot, triple. easily triple. Plus our parks, you know, we have a pretty good pile.
Aaron.
How are you gonna deal with your own leaves?
I'm kind of for it, but I don't, I mean, we.
As the only board member that gets their leaves picked up.
Yeah, we do.
You know, we'll have to
We do like
reinvest in a
3
machine
piles
for us, but it's nowhere near
But I get it,
what this thing
It's
is.
just I mean, there's a lot, there are more people using it, I don't know, it's just, seems like we should have done this a while ago. We should have got rid of it, not when it's at its most popular, but.
Well, it's not.
But when it was at its,
Yeah,
when
it
it was
was
not as
much like
popular, it was
taxing,
easier to
was
do,
it? Right.
so it's
Yeah.
kinda,
Okay.
I think there's
Yeah.
actually some global, climate issues happening with it too, and how leaves are hanging onto trees longer.
Mhm.
And the interface between winter and fall is, this year in particular, but, you know, the oak trees, you know, they've still got leaves on them, and, it
What's
doesn't,
it, Jay Burkhart's, they were cleaning them up yesterday.
yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
I saw that.
it's,
Yeah.
you know, I can't make them fall, I can't make them stay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have to be ready for snow.
Yeah,
And, you know, again, there's only 2 of us. It's hunting season in the middle of it. I enjoy my vacation time and I'm taking it. And I don't really much care if there's a leaf or not, you know, in that time. You know, but it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know, it's just like any old story where you tell 2, then 3, you tell 4, then 5. Now people are sitting there at home reading that thing and saying, Alma, did you know that we got leaves in North Bennington? Oh my goodness.
they're dragging them over here just to get them picked up, don't they?
And if people kind of stuck to our adopted policy, it wouldn't be so bad. Now, this year, it was hard. It was hard for the homeowner too. I get that. I absolutely get that. And there's people that bring out cookies, and there's other things that are found in piles, you know, a case of soda or something, you know, that are in a pile, you know, it's nice, and okay, then that's great. You know, and they do appreciate it, and, you know, Lori Mothers makes her brownies all the time, you know?
She likes the program, I don't.
But, you know, in the wintertime, and I'm not looking to say we're gonna make it any longer. You know, it's still, there's the block.
Yeah.
But you gotta, when you see, and again, I can show you a picture of this thing, and it's certainly if we go to a vote, if we're gonna go to the village, and ask the residents, you know, we'll have to make some flyers, and again, that takes some time, so we'll be asking Mary to help me.
I don't think it's something, you know, I think it's a perk that's just always been kind of informal, and I'm not sure it's something, I mean, like I said, you can ask the village, you can ask the voters, but the answer you're gonna get isn't gonna be the one you want at a meeting in which 24 people show up, all who vote a budget every year to whatever's put forth. You know, there are probably people who really don't wanna see the taxes go up anymore, but also like the leaves getting picked up. But you can't have it both ways, and I've always been in support of it because of the history of it, but I do see the practicality and the problems or the impracticality and the problems associated with it.
Is there a reality?
I mowed my leaves, worked great this year with my new mower, not a problem, I don't have any leaves.
I think the other
One-
problem with falling in
one
love
time
with
we
the
mowed his
history
lawn.
of it is, you know, there were times when the old forest would plow somebody's driveway for them too. So,
Right.
so there are things that happened in the past that were,
Just can't.
okay then, and it's just not the world we live in today.
Would it be a true statement to just say that our equipment broke this year and that was the end of it? We can't.
We're not gonna
Well, our equipment is getting tired, very tired,
Well,
and it's overtasked for what it can handle. That's probably the true statement.
Tongues hanging out.
Its tongue's hanging out.
That's a technical term.
So that piece of machinery might last you another year or two if it was just you
Just parks.
doing your parks.
right.
Yes, it'll definitely, if we're just doing our stuff, we're gonna live a lot longer, or replace it in a couple of years. You know,
But you can replace
It is.
that,
I think that
but you're not
Yeah.
talking about a $35,000 piece of
Yeah.
machinery to replace that for what you have to do, right? We're talking about,
We were
Something
talking
similar,
Mary,
yeah.
how many tax
Five.
bills go out of North Bennington?
A little over 700.
So I have 700 clients that could take advantage of this program. 700.
but I think the
For how many
board,
do?
I think the
I bet
board
there's
can
100
make a
now.
decision that
Actually, more than
that piece of equipment is just gonna be used on our own parks going forward, as opposed to,
Well,
like you're saying, make
consider
a voting
a tax bill
issue
to
at town
a
meeting or something.
building.
If we just,
Right,
if we
right.
decide that our equipment has reached a
in
a
the
life.
village right now in town.
And if people have an uproar, that's their vote, and they can, then we can have the discussion because they'll be engaged in it. But otherwise, my biggest concern is making it clear, we are not picking your leaves up anymore.
Do we want to try to include it in the report?
We could do that. We could say this is.
I think we would almost have to, because at least we know that
We
goes
can,
out.
we can talk about the extenuating circumstances of the
Yeah, we
weather,
can't
and
force
then
people to do that.
unfortunately, the board
But then-
decided this would be the last year that we do like leave.
Yeah,
It's too hard on our equipment, and it's too much time for our employees, and
As they're preparing for winter and
Yeah.
everything else. Yeah, I'm all right with that. I think,
you okay with that?
Yeah, again, it's one of those things you're torn, because I know it's a service that some people really rely on and really do need, but again, you can't always, we are just not set up to provide every service that is beneficial to every resident.
I think our town is very responsive to those in need too, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not saying that we're gonna go around and still do it for certain people.
You can't.
but
Yeah,
if
we
some-
can't do that.
Like, if what you're saying is really true, if somebody has a medical issue or what, you know, and we help each other out, but,
Yeah, I'll let you use my trailer, you can go and,
yeah.
you can take that up.
so currently leaves are freely accepted at the dump?
Yeah.
In
For the
Bennington?
homeowner.
For a
If you
homeowner who
hire
lives in.
somebody to do it, they have to pay the regular rate. But if you bring it over there yourself, it's free.
And we would still accept leaves
Sure.
at our bone yard.
Just leaves, no bags.
No bags.
Bags of pickup loads or whatever.
Yes, and then if that became a problem, then we would post hours and, you know.
Yeah.
that-
Do you have a lot of people, I know I do, I bring it,
Yeah.
do you have a lot of people that do
Yeah,
that?
but we're mostly people that.
And do they do that
Again, good,
properly?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, I don't have
do you
any
feel
problem.
like
People
they
that drive
dump it
around,
right, okay.
no problem.
I think what we could use, honestly, because sometimes when I pull in there, is possibly just a sign that said, even though it's kind of obvious,
Yeah.
because I think this year there were kind of two different places that I could put them, and but especially if we're gonna get rid of our service, we'll probably have more people taking advantage of that. So it might just be something we want to throw a sign up to make sure that we're putting it in the right spot to make your life easier in there.
So you say commercial people, are you allowed to dump if what they're picking up?
You don't bother me, because we compost it down.
I get it, it's good.
We use it, it's, you know, so that would be the downside of the thing. Because we won't create that product that pretty much is,
Great.
you know, it's not free, but it's, you know, it's a good product, it's another reusable source, I mean, so.
So that's something you can almost put out there as, you know, somebody who wants to maybe take that on as a small business. Let them know that you can help with on their high end of their line, that we've got a place you can dump them free, so you don't have to take them to the
Yep.
town of Bennington.
Yep.
So you
Right.
fill your need of getting the leaves you want, plus help out, you know, either somebody with their business or the
Time
people
for
that are
some kids
standing.
in this community to get off their butts.
The big thing about, and again, I'm not a voter here in North Bennington, but when I brought it up, is that's the place for the average Joe to come and speak his mind and decide on how he wants a few things dealt with. And there it is, so when, you know, big grumpy Norm says, I'm not picking them up, you should have went to town meeting and you voted it down, I don't have any problems with saying that, you know, because they had their opportunity to speak. And,
I would think maybe a better place is our hearings at a meeting. Because again, the town meeting, the village meeting is not well, but if you, I mean,
maybe this would
it's
be
on,
an option that some people would go for.
yeah.
Well, you
Most
can
of the time for
advertise,
everything, that's,
but either
That's
way,
the
you would
lowest.
either way, you'd have to advertise that out as being an item, so we can
Oh,
certainly
yeah.
advertise it for the annual meeting that this is gonna be taken up if you have if you want your voice heard,
Pro or
just show up.
I think it's ultimately our decision. I really do. And I think that that's when you get the feedback, is after the decision is made.
it
Until
could
then, you're
turn
not gonna
out-
get any.
There's no saying that it could turn out that we have such an uproar that, you know what?
Yeah,
Then maybe we purchase it for the following year, knowing that,
right.
doesn't mean you
That's
can't do
fine.
Yeah,
it.
you
It just means for maybe
We could
a
do it
year
anytime.
pause, we'll see what.
And that becomes an unbudgeted line item you know,
Keep
adds.
watching your surplus site, maybe one will pop up.
We have. I've
Yeah.
been shot down by Mr. Farmer Man over there before.
Well, maybe
Would that
we'll
be-
I
change
have
our
no
mind.
recollection of
Are you a
that.
farmer
I don't
still?
farm.
He is.
Well, maybe given this
I must have
situation, it's
smoked
a
it,
new way to look at it.
yeah. All right, thank you for that important issue. I think I mean,
I think we need to get
Are
to
we-
resolve one way or the other by spring.
are we,
If we want it to be
I
in
think
the
this
report.
ties into the issue of preparing for the annual meeting, and are we discussing that tonight too? Or are we
I was just
scheduling
going
a
to
budget
say
meeting,
that,
or?
I think we gotta start talking about when we're gonna schedule the first meeting,
And
yeah.
I was just going to say that I have been getting some reports, and I do need a trustee's report.
Okay,
And I'm willing to put pieces of it together. You know, sometimes you each write something,
I'll put together my usual part.
and that'd be great, Mark, thanks. Yeah, lots of people have been sending it without me asking this year so far.
that's good.
So
That's crazy.
kinda good. Matthew wanted to know if, and I can see him at school tomorrow, if you're interested in,
Designing a cover.
him designing a cover. and
Yes.
No, I
He
think
was
that's been great.
thinking about photography perhaps this time, because there's some photographers in the village.
Yeah,
That
No, I think he's done a great job of that, yeah, that'd be,
It's great.
Okay,
Yep.
I'll tell him that.
and if anybody wants to suggest, usually it's nice to include if anybody's passed away this year, if you wanna think about
Think
that.
about the dedication. I think we have someone for that. Or something just came to my mind
Yeah.
immediately.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
All right, I don't think is there anything else we wanna?
You done, Norm?
He's done, I already asked.
Oh, yes. What's about?
You're in budget meeting?
All right,
Can I ask
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
question? Sorry.
She has something.
I just have a question about the stop, the bus stop that is currently at Pollins, where they pick up the Green Mountain Express.
yeah,
Does anyone know who owns, so the question is this, the folks who wait for that bus have to wait uncovered in snow, rain, whatever. We talked to the left bank about potentially them waiting behind. They just had concerns about that, as that's where they have people who are using services in the building, and that may not be the best. So we're interested in looking into, Christine Graham talked to me and was interested in maybe looking into, could a shelter be built at Pollins where they stand now? Does anyone know anything
Where do
about
they
that?
stand? At the picnic table area across the road?
No, they stand
No,
right
they
in the
s-
corner.
They stand right in the
Right.
The
corner.
fund for
Oh, I'm thinking of the west side.
owns that building.
No.
Yes, the fund for owns the left bank.
that's the.
Oh, no,
They own-
you're
they own
talking about
Pollins, too.
Collins.
Yes.
yeah, they own Pollins.
They own Pollins.
Oh, they own
The
Pollins?
Sage City
Say City
Syndicate
Sorry.
owns Collins,
Sage
not
City, not the
for
fund. The fund has the
I
bank.
misspoke.
So, okay,
The Sage.
Sage City, okay,
Sage City Syndicate
Owns the-
owns Palms.
okay. So Sage City would be the people to ask about?
Yes,
Bob
Yes.
Howard didn't want.
yes.
Oh, okay,
He's
Yeah.
a
okay.
member of their.
So contact Tammy.
Where do they stand? Where do they stand waiting?
They're
Down by
just
the,
sort of standing in the
Also,
corner.
David.
Right by the phone booth used to be?
The White House that used to be the
Bob will
homeless shelter.
give you
They
the
stay-
Oh,
they
on
stay
that
right
side.
person who's
Okay.
the president at this time.
Okay.
Yes, on the school street side of the park.
well, okay.
That's where they hang.
Yeah, I think that's a neat idea.
Would cause a lot of problems if they, where they stand to build a structure,
Is the
No.
backing up for the, I saw, when I was
it
pulling
wouldn't,
in here
it
today, I saw the
wouldn't work for
gas.
the in and out of the gas station nor the,
So if you have any suggestions or ideas of where it could be?
How many kids wait?
No, it's it's not.
It's not,
like
it's not, it's
public.
a.
The Green
Oh,
Mountain.
this is the Green
Green
Mountain
It's
thing.
Green Mountain Express, so it's mostly adults, I think.
I don't
So-
think it's a good place to have a bus stop, to be
I-
honest.
what-
I would like it to, I mean, I thought the left bank, that wasn't a bad idea.
What's,
Looping
The
through.
better solution is for them to walk up here and stand.
I was just gonna say, we've got an overhang right here, and
Overhang,
an
because
easy
there's
place
a
for them
bus
to
stop
pull
right
in
there.
and turn,
Do
I
they,
mean, why
do
don't?
they pick up
I
here
think they
already?
might already.
They do,
Yeah.
and then
They
they
do
go.
pick up here, right?
They're
And-
supposed to.
So-
They're supposed to. It's
Yeah.
They
supposed
used to. They
So is
used
it
to.
really necessary to have
So if it's raining.
two spots within 100?
Yeah, maybe it just, maybe they just need to come here. I mean, there's a number, I mean, I usually see a couple people waiting.
So it's coordinating with
Okay.
that entity about, hey, would it make more sense to have fewer places or
Right.
something, if you wanna be,
Or you can even just put a, as much as I love my sign in my front yard, to add a sign down there, a sign saying, in inclement weather, remember that there's an overhang up at the train station that you can wait for the bus at. I assume this is
I
on,
mean, there's different lines.
I assume
and
everyone
I'm not
knows-
sure which
Yeah.
one stops where.
I've
and
seen
all that,
lots
but
of people waiting here.
It's,
and the school does a loop here
there's a
now
little
too.
bit of a back and forth there because you want to encourage use of public transportation.
Oh, right, that's
The further
interesting.
people walk, the
Yeah,
less
I
likely
don't
they
know
are
that.
to use
You're
it,
right.
but at the same time.
but not eliminating that stop though,
I
but
think
if
this
it's
person
raining.
was on crutches, and so it was a hard,
Sure.
like,
But
in the
there,
rain.
well, actually,
Why can't they wait in the laundromat?
I think if the last
Yeah, the
time I
business
checked
themselves
was
might
Green
have
Mountain
issues.
Express, if you had something like that, you could call and they'd just go to your house, actually.
oh, really?
They, as long as it wasn't way out of the way.
Because
they'll
they
actually
stop
right
right
there.
in front of my house,
Oh, really?
because there's a, one of my tenants
So
has.
if
So
you
you
just call
stand on
ahead.
our porch.
There you go, yeah, hey, make you coffee.
I think to go back to your statement, Matt, I think it's unfair to have a business tell you you need to support, when you have people coming in, you need to support your inside of your business for a bus stop.
No,
I think that's kind of
No,
crazy.
but see, if it's just the occasional individual and it's raining out, I
That's-
could just see
yeah.
informally someone, that would be what I'm doing, is ducking into the laundromat and looking busy,
Well, the
until.
thing is like, it's 40 by 40 now though, right, the overhang?
What,
I mean,
in
it's
the-
huge.
Yeah,
now.
but you can't just hang around with gas pumps
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, no, he's talking about actually in the building, waiting in the building.
I don't think there's any law against standing outside, right in front of it.
Where are you talking about? At the left bank?
In front
or-
of Collins.
Oh, Collins.
I was sure. You know what? if you're
Yeah,
getting
especially,
gas,
well, there's also a
Full
safety,
on.
there's a certain safety issue to that too, you got people pulling in and pulling out to get gas, I wouldn't want somebody standing
Somebody
there.
gets hit, it's.
I understand your
A
point, but
small
I-
shelter on the other side between the
Where
house
they're,
above you.
where the price sign is, you're
Yeah.
talking, potentially.
A little kiosk,
Here's
there
the-
makes sense.
I
And,
get
and
the
school kids could wait there too, as they're waiting.
Gazebo.
I was gonna say that,
There
Jeff
you go.
Gray is that a
Problem
great
solved.
idea. Right
Just
across
switch it to the
park.
other side, gazebo, we're good to go.
Listen, I'm all for that idea. And there's a picture of one back in
Scale.
the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was a gazebo in that park.
It's gotta be scaled properly,
Which
or
part?
it looks
Where-
ridiculous.
Where the other fountain.
Where the fountain is.
Smaller.
Veterans
Okay.
Memorial, right?
Okay.
There was a
yeah.
gazebo for
Yeah,
doing
Yeah,
it
there's
for
a little
events.
corner park, it's not a big village square, but they have a little. corner
Gazebo
park that's
and bus
smaller.
stop?
The one that's up there,
Keene has one, that's cool.
it's a big, yeah, for the gazebo.
Okay, let's get a meeting planned for budget and,
Tell me when the budget meeting is.
Yeah.
I have a really sick puppy.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
to go.
she gonna be all right?
I don't know.
We'll, do we wanna,
Yes.
are we
Yeah.
trying to schedule this before
Yes.
Christmas?
Well, I don't know. You guys need to tell me that. Our next regular trustee meeting is January 8th. And I believe that's probably too late to get everything turned around and gotten to Lori. She likes to have everything certainly by middle of January, end of January at the absolute latest.
Next Tuesday night, anybody available for that?
Oh, wrong year. Let me go back.
Probably.
Next
I-
Tuesday night, which is the 18th.
Fairly free during the week.
I'm not, but I've got a Winterfest meeting.
Tuesday the 18th?
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's a
Meeting's
water
at 5,
department
so
meeting.
I
That's
could
also
probably
a
go
water
in there.
department meeting.
Oh, yeah. Well, is this a mess over here, or can we meet there?
Well, the water department will.
They might be
we used-
potentially 10
We used
minutes.
a little bit of it because we combine a budget meeting with the regular
Not to
meeting.
mention she'll be at that meeting,
And there's a little
so
bit
we
of.
need her.
Oh, right, you couldn't be in two places.
How about Monday?
Tuesday's out.
Yeah, how about
Thursday,
Monday
the
or Wednesday?
20th?
I will have just had eye surgery.
You don't need to see.
I won't be able
You
to
just
do
need to
it.
hear.
Like that evening,
Are we talking Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday.
Thursday, the
I
20th?
thought you've got Pittsfield.
I'm never home in time for that anyway, so if that's gonna be happening, I'm gonna be taking time off. We'll talk more about that, but,
Well, but, okay.
no, I pretty much
All
can
right, so
do, I can do
Thursday,
that.
the 20th?
I'm working straight
Seven?
through any,
I'm open on the 20th.
All right,
I'll bring us Christmas
I'm a hard
cookies.
no.
maybe, okay.
yep.
I can't
All
do
Is
right.
that
it.
something that
I'm
you're?
having surgery at 2 o'clock and I can't look at anything.
Right, no,
So-
but are you, I think it sounds like that's a date that works
That's
for
fine.
Yeah.
four.
And
Is
for the
that-
first meeting anyway, no decisions
meeting.
anyway made there.
And we'll have another?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
That's
having
fine.
another one.
I don't mind missing.
Okay.
'cause
What time did you
I
say?
will.
Right,
Tell
it's
me.
better for you.
I'd prefer 6 than 7.
6 is fine with me, I
6
think.
works good.
Oh, yeah, okay, 6.
Thursday, the
I don't know how to use my calendar. Oh, there.
Neither do I, don't worry.
6.
I'll bring Christmas cookies.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
I'll get with Mary before that, 'cause
Yeah.
Thursday's bad.
6:30 too. Ben has a basketball game that night, but I think it'll be done.
6:30?
Would you guys mind 6:30?
It's fine with me. It's
Just means I
better,
can
it's
eat
better
dinner.
for me, actually, but.
Okay, 6:30.
It's in the middle.
And I'll contact the fire department guys. Sometimes we try to sit down and
That would be great.
hash out some of their issues too. And I know, John, you had asked them, and I did too, to compile a list
Yeah,
of their things.
haven't seen anything yet.
No.
Okay. What about the audit?
I'm waiting for one more piece of information from the fire department. Mark's given me some information, Norm's been really helpful. Really the big deal is some of the buildings that we've been in like forever, when were they built and how much did they cost?
Did you
Who
check
knows?
with Steve about that or no?
Yes, he and I met.
Okay,
Yeah, he and I met. We
so
went
you're
through
clear
everything.
on what he's looking for
I
in
know
terms
everything.
of
He
the
took
building
Yeah, he took
valuation?
he took the spreadsheets that I gave him,
Yeah,
and he made some notes on there, he gave them back to me. I got some of the information filled out, between Norm, waiting for one more thing from the fire department. Like, for instance, when all that playground stuff was built.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought his
almost,
view was that kind of stuff was not, you didn't have
Well,
to be
he's,
real.
no, he said if we could at least get some idea of the year, like, what year did the village take over the firehouse?
Okay,
I wouldn't have a clue, the department guys don't know.
all right.
from Bennington, you mean?
From North Bennington, this firehouse here, when did the village of North Bennington become responsible for that firehouse?
It always was.
No, the brick building. So
Built?
the fire department had a firehouse across the street, the yellow
Yeah.
building, but probably what, in the 40s or 50s, they built the brick building.
It was in the 60s. It was by the same architect that did the high school, and it was built.
Good,
at the same-
1960, that's all I need.
Well, it's,
Yeah, close enough.
It's close enough.
it
This is
was,
not, the difference between a
Yeah.
building built in 1945 and 1970 is not gonna be
Exactly
big
right.
enough in terms of the depreciation
60.
schedule
Yeah.
to matter.
Yeah,
although, that's all, I think that's probably, I know that people like Rob Wilmington or Tyler Rash, all those people would know that stuff.
somebody might, okay, I can send them an email too,
Bill?
but other than that, you know.
Scully probably
Wasn't
has that as part of his water plan
Yeah.
for that, for
It
that
might-
dam.
And you have his email anyway? I
Yeah.
thought I might have seen something in that
Okay,
water,
That said it?
that talked about the history of that
Okay.
building, because that's where the,
Yeah, that building,
turbines
and then
can
the
go.
garage where they are. And then Norm suggested maybe Jerry Elwell might have some recollection
Yeah.
of when that was built.
Well, Steve Goodrich might too.
Yeah,
Just.
and I'm seeing them next week, so. I'm
Okay.
planning to have
all right, perfect.
Can we go?
Great, thank you for moving
Yes.
forward with that. Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Do we have executive or anything? No? Don't think so? That's good. Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second,
Okay.
third, yeah, third,
Aye.
fourth.
All those in favor indicate by leaving.
Cheers.